Hello there, guys. RMP792 here. It's been a weird couple of weeks. Sorry I haven't managed to get vlogs out, but life. But I just got back from seeing Star Wars Episode 8: The Last Jedi, and I need to talk about this movie, guys. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did when I talked about Force Awakens. So I'm going to start spoiler-free, and just talk about things like how it made me feel and all that stuff, and then I'll give you a big flashing warning. I will be very, very clear before I start talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can turn the video off at that point, go and watch it, and then come back and see what I'm going to waffle about. But put my watch away before I play with it too much. I really liked this movie, guys. Yeah, it's go watch it. This is my spoiler-free comment. Go and watch it. It's really good. While a lot of people's big complaint about Force Awakens is that it riffed a bit too much on A New Hope, and yeah, it does. I'm not going to deny that. So the big concern going into this one was that it would just be a riff on Empire. And while it certainly has a lot of thematic similarities, it's not just a carbon copy of Empire. It's a very, very different film. And that absolutely works. So it's got some really good action, some scenes that had me tearing up. It's got some genuinely funny moments. It's got a chance for a lot of these characters that I grew up with to shine and just it's a really, really good movie. And certainly towards the end, I kept sort of looking vaguely at my watch and oh god, has this only got like 20 minutes left? Damn it, I want more. I kept almost worrying they were going to kind of jam the ending, insofar as it felt like there was about 8 or 9 moments where it felt like they could have ended it, and it would have been incredibly frustrating, but they didn't, and the ending itself is actually pretty solid. So I think that's pretty much all I've got, completely spoiler free. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. As an old school Star Wars fan, as somebody who grew up with Star Wars and loves this franchise to death, it was a really, really good film. Go watch it. Okay, that's it for the spoiler-free stuff. Because I never claim to be eloquent, and there's a limit to what I can talk about without going into spoilers. So, spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You hear anything you didn't want to beyond now, it's your own damn fault. Okay? So, holy crap, that scene with Leia where she gets blasted into space. Holy crap, that scene! Here's the thing. We've known for some time that since the death of Carrie Fisher, there's no way she can be in Episode 9. So the assumption was that she was going to die in this film. And the moment when she got blasted out into space, I thought that was it. I thought that's how they were going to end it. And and that hit me like a ton of bricks. That was genuinely shocking. And then the sort of extended bit where she's sort of drifting in space. And then her hand twitches. And her hand twitches some more. And cuts to her face. Cuts to her hand. Twitches. And she uses the Force to basically survive briefly in space and pull herself back towards the ship. I really wish she was going to be in Episode 9, because it feels like they were building to something amazing, and they, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't announced what their plan is regarding that, because she's still alive at the end of this film. Sorry, my contact lens is playing up a bit. So, I don't know, but as a final performance appearance of Carrie Fisher as the character that did define her, this was a hell of a send-off. I have no complaints on that front. So, but holy crap, that scene. But yeah, anyway, so we've got various. There are, to all intents and purposes, 4 sort of main plots in this film. Insofar as you've got the Rey, Luke, and Kylo plot, to all intents and purposes. You've got the Poe, Leia, and Vice Admiral Purple Hair. Can't remember the character name. Then you've got Finn and the new character Rose, and I feel like there's one more. Or are those kind of it? Was that kind of it? Those are probably the 3 sort of main ones, and all the various other characters, come in and come out, and So, I think I'm obviously these 3, these stories sort of, go across the film, but the Poe's story really is about him learning to be a leader. Up to this point, we know that Poe is one hell of a pilot, and even the sort of opening where that they're trying to evacuate the base, and he flies in with his X-wing. And the sequence where he's just punking Hux, where he's basically just, I have an urgent message for General Hux. Put him on. This, General Hux gives this grand speech, and you basically, hello? Anybody there? And he just spends like a minute and a half punking him. And it is glorious. Because it's so silly, but it buys him time to get close enough to that dreadnought to start shooting it apart. And the giant sort of resistance bombers. Star Wars space combat has always had a very sort of World War II fighter aircraft thing going for it. So the giant sort of bomber aircraft put me very much in mind of again World War II, giant ass bomber aircraft, which is obviously what they were meant to be. Right down to the fact that, their bomb bay doors open and yet somehow nobody gets sucked into space. I'm going to be charitable and assume they had force fields. But yeah, and of course, a lot of people get killed doing that. And yes, they take out that dreadnought, which, good on them, but at the same time, a lot of them dead. I mean, let's face it, the resistance at that point is down to 1 medium-sized cruiser and some escort ships, and that's it. So they are seriously outclassed and in need of running the hell away. And of course, they run the hell away. And then the First Order immediately jumps right on top of them and starts chasing them. So Poe's conflict throughout the whole film is him becoming a better leader for the rebellion. I like the fact that they basically said, we're not the resistance. We're the rebellion. Why did we ever think? Why did we ever do this any different? So that was good. Right down to the fact that they are using the symbol of the rebellion. So yeah, that I like. And the whole. I'll be honest. I like the Vice Admiral character in that she's a bit of a. Her main problem is that she really needs to actually, explain things occasionally. And I'm not. What exactly was the relationship between her and Leia supposed to be? Was it friends, or at what point? Yeah, the way they were talking to each other right at the end, I almost thought they were going to reveal that she was like Leia's daughter or something like that. They didn't. So I'm assuming they're basically just, mentor and mentee, something like that, teacher and student. Again, little bit on the vague side, but and oh my god, the bit where the transport ships are running for the planet, and the cruiser basically just turns, starts spooling up its drive, and the Empire and the First Order thinks they're going to run, and it keeps turning. And it keeps turning, and I realised that what she was planning to do, and I was like, oh my god. And that shot. especially because they did it in complete silence, where you just hear the whoomph of the hyperdrive, and then you've just got this shot of the Star Destroyers splitting in half, and it's completely silent. Oh my god, that was one of the most beautiful is probably the wrong word, but just oh holy Jesus, that was a shot. That this movie is just really well directed on occasion. There are some really really beautiful shots, and that was absolutely one of them. So yeah, Jesus Christ. Anyway, and of course then they're down on the planet, and and they're trying to hold out, but they're just outclassed. Let's face it, those biker were all in that base, apart from a few old knackered speeders, which were not going to get the job done. Even trying was kind of a fool's errand, and again, a bunch of people get killed for effectively no real reason, and then they end up running. But Poe is showing his potential as a leader. You've then I'm going to talk about the Luke and Rey and Kylo plot last, because that's effectively the main plot. You know what I mean. So then you've got Finn and Rose, and of course Rose's sister was one of the bomber pilots, or she was a sort of bomber. She was one of the people on board one of the bombers. It's your classic. You need about half a dozen people to run something that size, which is fair enough. And and of course she was the one who actually managed to drop the bombs and destroy the dreadnought. But though I'll freely admit, I did like the shot where you just realise, oh boy, that's a lot of bombs. So that was fun. But yes, so those two, their digression to effectively the planet of the arms dealers, I'll be honest, it probably goes on a little long for what it is, but it's got some good moments. I actually really like the design of the police uniforms there, in that they're very showy, very flashy, but you can still see kind of hints of the old Empire-y type stuff in them. Very nice design work, and I like the capes. Yeah, I know, I'm a sucker for capes. Capes are awesome. So are cloaks. I actually ended up having to explain to my dad the difference between a cape and a cloak the other day. The short version, cape attaches on the shoulders, cloak fastens all the way around. That's it. That's the main difference. Though you tend to find, capes will actually sort of enclose you completely, effectively, more comfortably than a cape will. But anyway, completely pointless digression into nerd fashion, but there we are. So yes. So there was a lot of potential on the idea of basically a planet of super rich assholes. Most of it kind of doesn't pay off, beyond the sort of smaller character stuff for them, and the allusions to horse racing were not subtle. They kind of didn't need to be, but they were really unsubtle. So yeah, that I get what they were going for. I think they overplayed it a little, but from a character level, having Finn see that there's more evil out there does certainly work, because Finn is in many ways very, very naive. Because, again, Stormtrooper. And let's face it, at this point, this film is only set, a week or two after the previous one, if that. So, at the moment, Finn, defected from the First Order, like, a month ago. Probably a lot less. If you don't, because I'm not entirely sure how long he was meant to be unconscious. Probably only a couple of days, presumably. Depending on how long it's meant to have taken them to evac their base. So, my assumption is basically that, this takes place about only a few days after the previous one, and as a result, he's only really been separated from his position as a stormtrooper in the First Order for a week or so. Again, how much time passes in the first film is vague. In this one, it's a lot more concrete because you've got that ongoing chase sequence, with the Rebel cruiser. But yes, anyway, so they hire Benicio del Toro to get them in, and his character actually works for what it is, because you think he's going to be a bit of a noble con artist, especially when he gives her necklace back. But as soon as they're in hot water, he screws them over for his life and a wad of money, because not everybody's a hero. He was in it for the money. It's sad, but there it is. And again, that mostly worked. The main problem is that I have no idea what happened to him. I don't know if he was killed when the hyperdrive on the cruiser went off. I don't know if he escaped or what. So, little more clarity there would have been nice. But but ultimately, Finn's big sort of scene there is his showdown with Phasma, and I'll freely admit, they probably should have included Phasma slightly earlier, just to ensure that the audience remembered who she was. But her appearance is pretty badass, and especially the bit where Rose tries to shoot her, and you realise, holy crap, that's Stormtrooper armor that actually works as armor. That's why it's all shiny. So she gets into the fight with Finn, and she beats him, and she just knocks him off the thing. But because she's not, she's overconfident, he basically just, he rises up on a lift and basically goes, hey, and clocks her one, and actually, you only get to see Gwendolyn Christie's eye, and then, the damage from, the ship taking that major hit comes in, and she tumbles into a giant ball of fire. So I suspect that's it for Phasma. I mean, she could come back with some bitching burns, but I suspect that's it for her. So yeah, that was a good moment. That was Finn, really sort of coming to peace with it to all intents and purposes. Well, not really, because of course then during the final battle on the planet, he's sort of recklessly charging at the giant gun. Even though the speeders they're flying cannot do it. He's trying to pull a doomsday machine, basically. He's trying to do a Commodore Decker and just ram straight down it in an attempt to destroy it. For any of you not nerdy enough to get the doomsday machine reference, how about Independence Day? He's doing a Randy Quaid. But yeah, so yeah, that's that's Finn almost sacrificing himself should be the emotional high point for him, but honestly, his fight with Phasma felt more monumental to me in that regard. But yes, they and then of course he and Poe sort of get the hell out of there, and so on and so forth. Then, last but not least, you've got arguably the meat of this film, which is the Luke, Snoke, Rey, Kylo story. And I'll be honest, I figured out about halfway through it where that was going to go, but seeing it happen was still really, really, really good. So the fact that Luke takes the lightsaber and it's just like, oh, fuck this, and he walks off. I try not to swear on camera. I apologise. Dreadfully sorry. Yeah, and I really like the fact that she's kind of knocking on his door trying to get his attention, and then eventually, you just see it from the inside. Knock, knock. Go away. And then the door just goes flying across the room because Chewie's had enough of this. At first, I thought she blasted it off its hinges with force, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot Chewie was here with him. With her. Yeah, so, that seeing those two together again was great. But Luke effectively being, to all intents and purposes, broken by his failure, that was an interesting way to take it, and it works to a certain extent. And Mark Hamill is giving a hell of a performance here. There are things I'm disappointed we won't see. We're not really going to see true Jedi Master Luke, kicking all kinds of ass. We're never going to see that now. But we really get an exploration of Luke's, of Luke's psyche here, and it's really kind of fascinating. What do you do when you fail that badly? That's an interesting question, and Luke's solution was to leave. Probably not the best solution, but yeah. But yeah, so he begins to, he agrees to teach her a little bit, and the scene where she's actually, where she's practicing with her staff, and then she gets out the lightsaber, that returns me to a point that I'm really hoping they do. I'm really hoping that she's going to use her staff as the basis of her lightsaber, because we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen a saber on the end of a staff, because that's a very different combat style, and you could do a lot of interesting things with it. So I'm hoping they do that. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying I would like them to. And several of you are going to say, well, what's the point in that? A lightsaber blade will just cut through the staff. No, it won't. You can easily reinforce it with some cortosis or one of half a dozen other metals from the old expanded universe. Or hell, we've seen weapons here that were resisting lightsaber strikes. Like those tonfa-like things that a couple of the First Order stormtroopers use. That Finn used to take out Phasma. Or even the weapons that the Imperial Guards were using. So there are options. So I want them to do that. I'm not saying they will, but I hope they do. So yes, and so yeah, she trains a bit. And she kind of looks inside herself, and throughout the film, she keeps having effectively visions of Kylo, and they keep just having conversations, and yeah, that's kind of interesting. The hero and the villain having a chance to actually just talk to each other, and try and persuade each other over to over to their side. And once she basically says that she's seen his future. She's seen that he can be redeemed. I realised she saw him killing Snoke, but I also realised that it wasn't his redemption. It was him taking his place as a true Dark Lord of the Sith. Because I want to talk very briefly about the Darth Bane books. The Darth Bane books are fascinating because they basically establish the Sith rule of two. Why there are only ever two Sith, and why there should and must only be two Sith. The simple reason is, you have a Sith Lord, and that Sith Lord takes 3 apprentices. Sooner or later, the nature of the dark side means that his apprentices will try to kill him. However, the apprentices will know that they are not strong enough to defeat their master alone, so they will band together, they will work together, they will kill their master, and then they will turn on each other, and the strongest one of them will live. But that strongest one is still not superior to the master they killed. He or she is inferior to their master, and as such the Sith become weaker. Because it is in their nature to backstab, to betray, to screw each other over in any way possible for any advantage, each generation would necessarily be weaker. However, so as a result, it would seem logical that there should only ever be one Sith Lord who cannot be betrayed. But it is logical to know that that one Sith could be killed. It could happen. So therefore there must always be a second, an apprentice. 2 Sith Lords, one to embody the power, and one to crave it. And the master should pass on all their knowledge, all their wisdom, everything they have to their apprentice. And when that apprentice is ready, they challenge their master to a fight. And only the greater, more powerful Sith Lord will emerge victorious and take up the mantle of the Dark Lord of the Sith. If the apprentice is the stronger, they become the new Lord. If the apprentice is not yet ready, they bet all their chips and they lost, and so they die. and the master goes out and finds a new apprentice, and the cycle begins anew. And that's the whole point of the rule of two, because it is in the nature of a Sith to kill their master. So when Kylo, when Kylo Ren basically just bisects Snoke in half with the lightsaber, and then that is him taking up his mantle as the Dark Lord of the Sith. Now, I'm not sure Bane would have approved of how he did it, given that he used deception and sneakiness rather than flat out raw power and strength. But it was still the Sith way. Bane was Bane fought Darth Zana and lost. So she became the new Dark Lord of the Sith. Sidious killed Darth Plagueis. Admittedly, Sidious killed him in his sleep because Sidious did not understand the rule of two. He did not understand why it was necessary, which ultimately is part of why he failed. He didn't train Vader to one day succeed him. He trained Vader to be his lapdog, which is why Vader could have been so much more than he ever was, and that's what Ren is becoming. So the scene of those two fighting side by side after Snoke is dead, and he genuinely wants her to join him, because whether that's because he sees the potential of the rule of two, or whether that's because he's trying to forge something new, impossible to say. In his own utterly screwed up way, I think he sees Rey as some sort of kindred spirit, or he did. Someone with the potential to be incredibly powerful, who could, and potentially a worthy ally, partner. That you could argue that there's some sexual tension there. Especially given the scene where he's got his shirt off and she's like, look, can you put a towel on or something? But it wouldn't surprise me to say he is in some way attracted to her. Whether that's just attracted to her power or actually attracted to her in a sexual sense, doesn't really matter. He wants her to join him. And when she doesn't, and the actual moment where she tries to pull the lightsaber towards her, and he stops it, and they basically just rip the saber in half. Again, symbolically, that is beautiful to watch. So I really enjoyed that. And some people are going to be annoyed that Snoke went out like a bitch, because he did. Snoke dies kind of pathetic. But ultimately, Snoke was never really the villain. Ren was. So I kind of don't mind it. Anyone who's been asking, who was Snoke, and all these questions, they don't get answered at all in this movie. Given the nature of Star Wars fans, I mean, let's face it, everybody in the cantina scene from the original Star Wars had has like a 20-page Wikipedia entry, because Star Wars fans are insane. And I say that as one of us. We're insane. I can tell you all sorts of things about the Old Republic that are utterly pointless now. I mean, I just went on a thing about Sith philosophy that I got from the Darth Bane books. So, we're crazy. In the best possible way, we are utterly mental. So somebody's going to explain Snoke's backstory at some point, but for this film, doesn't matter, because he's not important. Beyond setting up Ren's character arc, Snoke isn't really that important. So then you get the final confrontation. So, Chewie and Rey basically swoop in and get everybody the hell out of there after drawing the fighters off. And then Luke turns up. And Luke gets a really good scene with Leia. And then he basically just sort of, walks out. And Ren just, basically says, fire everything on that man. And Hux basically thinks he's gone, he's used colossal overkill, because he basically said, do you think you got him? And then, the clouds of sort of salt dust clear away. And he's just standing there and he walks forward and and the audience sort of went, the audience, because it wasn't a full screening I was in, there was probably, put it this way, middle of the day on a Thursday, and it was about half full. So, I suspect this film's going to do gangbusters. But, yes, so that was cool. So Ren obviously realizes he has to go down and face Luke himself. And Luke pulls out his lightsaber, and I'm just looking at it going, that's wrong. Yeah, that's the lightsaber that just got destroyed, the blue one. And indeed it is blue. It's not Luke's green. And the thing is, we do see Luke's green lightsaber in the flashback. So I was wondering at that point, had his green lightsaber been destroyed? So he built another one, which was effectively a replica of the blue one that Anakin had. And then when you finally realize what's actually going on, you're like, oh, that's why. But yes, and so Luke doesn't even try to fight Kylo. He just he plays with him. He toys with him. He there's a really nice scene where he comes in with this giant sweep, and Luke just sort of goes, and full on Matrix styles under it, and then just turns around and brings it back into a guard position because he's not trying to fight him. He's trying to delay him and piss him off. So he's not thinking clearly, which works. And eventually you realise that he's not there at all. He's just projecting himself from across the galaxy. I'll freely admit I would have liked to see, if we're talking homages to the original trilogy, after the scene where Yoda turns up, and incidentally, not sure what was up with Yoda. Sounded like Yoda, talked like Yoda, looked a bit weird. Insofar as, I'm not sure if that was CG or if that was a new puppet or what, but wasn't quite right. There was something about it that was just off. Maybe it was the blue effect around him for his Force ghostiness, but that one needed another few runs through the effects machine, I think. But anyway, great seeing Yoda again. So I kind of wish we'd had a scene with Luke lifting his old X-Wing out of the water. Wouldn't have made a lick of sense, because, that X-Wing ain't flyable after, 20 years? 10 years, something like that. But would have been a nice, nice callback. And, so, and Luke basically just fades away. He's done all he can, and as he promised, he will not be the last of the Jedi. And that's met nicely with Rey basically using the Force to clear the way for her friends, and pulling all the boulders aside. And the bit where Poe introduces himself to Rey, and I'm just like, oh yeah, they never actually met in the last film, did they? Son of a... I completely forgot that. Or if they did meet, it was probably quite brief at the Resistance base before she buggered off again. But no, that was, So yeah. And we've got... And so, the First Order's kind of winning at this point, because let's face it, there's 20 dudes in the Resistance left? So you're not doing well. You've got no money, no weapons, one knackered old YT-1300 cargo ship, one Wookiee, one Force user, one admittedly very talented pilot, and some dudes. That's about it, guys. You're in trouble. And yet, the final shot of this movie, I'd heard some people beforehand saying that this is a really amazing final shot, and I didn't know what the hell I was expecting. I was not expecting that. And yeah. Sorry, I'm actually tearing up thinking about that final shot, where you've just got the kids, effectively, they're reenacting what just happened there, because they've obviously heard the story, and they're just kids being kids, and you've got that one little boy who just sees, something zipping across the sky, with the rebellion ring on, just kind of lift up his broom handle like it's a lightsaber, and just closes out on that, and you're like, I remember being that kid. So yeah, that shot went right for the heartstrings. So well done, guys. Yeah, it made me tear up. Shut up. So yes, but no, this was overall a really good movie. It's got kind of there's some janky pacing in there, and you can argue that the middle section runs a bit long, and the Finn Rose story is a bit on the nose in terms of some stuff, but no. Overall, I was on the edge of my seat for about half of it. It was really, really good. some solid space battles, excellent performances, and I didn't want it to end. I really didn't. So yeah, now we've got a 2-year wait for episode 9, and I have no goddamn idea how the hell they're going to just wrap all this up in that time, because the Resistance is kind of buggered, guys. You're going to need a time skip to explain how you've actually got any stuff. Oh wait, this movie killed off Admiral Akbar. Screw you. But yeah, anyway. But no, damn good film. Really, really enjoyed it. Absolutely recommend it. I mean, if you've seen this far, you should have already seen it. But put it this way, I'll be going to do the Christmas shopping with the parents, and I can pretty much guarantee they're contemplating going to see it then. And yeah, I'm gonna go see it again. So yeah, that's basically all I've got. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in future videos. Probably won't get any more done before Christmas, because again, it's you know what this time of year is like. It's weird, but I'll see you when I see you.